Hogstyle.
Hello and welcome to the Hogside. I'm thrown off because Steve did not try and distract me with funny hand gestures.
Well, it's
Uh,
because the dog I thought was getting ready to bark at a biker.
oh, okay. So you had your hand on
Here,
the mute
wait.
button
There you
there.
go. How about
There we
that?
go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I can't do the show without Steve flashing made up gang signs now. Welcome to the show, everybody. It is Alex. It is Steve. We have Dave calling from his tree house right now. Or
Yeah,
house tree.
right.
I don't really know which it is. The Keebler Elves house that Dave is now living in. Uh, but Dave had some issues thanks to that storm that passed over the East Coast earlier this week. But everyone's okay.
Yes.
That's the
Yes.
important thing.
Yeah, it was rather unfortunate. I'm working overtime. I get a
Mhm.
call at work and my wife's a nervous wreck, understandably so. And
Yep.
at first I thought because of high winds, heavy rains and freaked out my daughter. I thought maybe well they're a bit overreacting. Then she showed me the pictures outside or video outside and I
Yep.
was like, yeah, I'll be home soon.
It looks like you're literally in a treehouse, Dave. I got to be honest.
Well, actually right now I'm actually sitting in my wife's office right now. That's where I've
Ah,
been for the
okay.
last. That's where I've been for like the last month now.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
He gets better reception.
yeah, because
Oh,
my
okay.
my Wi-Fi extender is or booster is just it's I think it's going bad or is bad because you put it in the
Mhm.
wall within 5 minutes it's just overheating so bad,
Oh
and I'm
no.
losing signal and all that. So I'm like, you know what? I'm done with this.
Mm.
Relocate
We
upstairs.
have had plenty of time with plenty of bad stuff with Dave's Wi-Fi that just the fans
Yes.
haven't
It-
really seen.
yeah, yeah. We
Yes.
usually get it fixed before we record. But yeah, I'm glad it's okay. We've all had uh issues with trees in our roofs because we're all homeowners. I would say roof issues only maybe probably the second worst thing you can have. Plumbing issues, like bad plumbing issues, to me are worse to deal with as a homeowner, but roof is probably second in my mind.
I don't know. I'm the only one that lives in Hurricane Alley, so my
Right,
sympathy for both of you is somewhat limited. Of course, I'm voluntarily living in Hurricane Alley also.
right, right. Also, Texas, many houses. I don't know about your house, but many houses, trees are pretty far away from the house for that reason.
I
Yeah, I mean,
mean, do you
there are
actually have
trees.
trees down there? Do you
Yes,
actually
there are.
have trees?
Well,
Well,
they were planted by the developer.
right,
They're not natural to the area. No, it's a
right.
bunch of shrubs and coyotes out here.
Yeah.
Naturally.
Right.
They even import the squirrels for
The
his dog to
the
bark at.
infamous the infamous Texas shrub oak is all that there is down here.
Right, right. And
You think I'm
gators.
kidding? I'm not kidding. That's what they call it, a shrub oak.
They have gators down there too. Those are natural to the area. That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Houston generally is kind of a swamp, but not where I
Right,
am, though.
right. Well, you did have that one time during the hurricane where the like golf course by your house got completely flooded and
Well, it
became a
was
lake.
intentional. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
that's what's supposed to happen. I mean,
right,
the fact that the golf course became a lake saves the neighborhood.
right, right. It's fairly smart design there when you do things
Absolutely.
like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. But it looked like a giant lake. It really did.
yeah.
That was
Uh,
Hurricane Harvey, which was one of the most damaging
right,
storms in U.S. history.
right. That was Harvey. We've done the show long enough. I've been through three good hurricanes with Steve. That's the one seed, but there were at least two other decent ones at this point.
Well, the eye of one of them passed over the house.
Right, that was the more recent one. I think, wasn't it?
No. It wasn't. It was I can't
Well,
remember. There's been
Harvey.
too many
Well,
of
well,
them.
Harvey was the one you had all that roof damage, right?
He's had roof
No.
damage from a couple.
Yeah, the
I
one
mean,
that
the most recent where you
the
had.
most recent one was Beryl, and yeah, that was the one that killed the roof.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
right, right. That's right. That's why I thought that
Harvey
was when
was
the
the
eye
one
saw
that
the
we had
storm.
a ton of rain here, and we had like something crazy like 55 inches of rain. It's something really, really,
Yeah.
really. It was more rain than anybody had ever gotten in U.S. history in some
Right.
parts.
So my wife's aunt, she obviously is down there along with most of the family there. They had obviously their house flooded at one point, like ankle deep water in their first floor, and she had like the windows broke out. Deer were walking through her house at one point to like try and get out of the flood. It was
Well, this
crazy.
is the fact that I have a golf course here is what
Yeah,
prevented all that from happening for us.
right, right. You had I remember you had some generators and stuff like that too to help keep things going, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Well, anyway, we should not just dilly dally and talk about the weather. Let's talk about some stuff that's gone on this week. Actual news that is
A little
related to
bit.
the football team. Kinda. I mean, tangentially. Let's start with the sad news, of course, and that is the passing of Fred Smith, the founder of FedEx, who was a minority owner with Dan Snyder. One time, Dan Snyder called Fred Smith his mentor, and then,
That
as we
lasted
all
until he got in
know,
a massive lawsuit.
Yeah.
as we all know, his mentor and him had a epic struggle at the end of their friendship,
Yes.
uh, that resulted in Dan Snyder, of course, finally selling the team in the long run.
Well, rest in peace.
Yeah,
The dog doesn't agree.
right.
Rest in
The
peace to Frank, to Fred Smith. But there
right.
was no one more. Let's give the dog. Hold.
Yeah, that's all right. By the way, I was talking with my barber, and he says most of the time when we hear the dog, they don't hear the dog. So, Mauricio, that's what Mauricio says. Steve, you're on mute right now. Okay, he knows. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, so yes, rest in peace to Fred Smith, and of course his son was a coach here, and then eventually became a head coach in Atlanta, and now is a coordinator. Not a great coach, but still,
Right.
I feel bad for losing your father's tough. I'm
Yeah.
always sympathetic to that. So, yeah, a lot of people very angry at Fred Smith because they blame him in a large way for the team losing the name Redskins. FedEx was one of those groups that said they were no longer going to be sponsors if the team name persisted. We now know that was part of a proxy fight for Fred Smith and Shar and all those
Well, it
guys.
wasn't really a proxy fight. It was that he claimed that Snyder didn't pay him
Right.
dividends that were due. That was
Right, but
what it was really about.
that's what I'm saying. It was a proxy fight about that.
It wasn't really a
wasn't
proxy fight, though. Proxy fight implies that you have voting rights, given to you by other shareholders. It's not when a proxy fight. It was a fight over. They claimed that Snyder hadn't paid dividends out. That's what it was about. And there's nobody more responsible for the name disappearing than Fred Smith, because FedEx.
I mean, Nike was part of it too, and Nike wasn't involved in the Fred Smith Dan Snyder fight. They just
No.
jumped on that.
Yeah, but it was FedEx. First of all,
Mhm.
my dog's nemesis, which is a giant German Shepherd, was running by, that
That's
walking
what
by
it
very
was.
slowly. That's what
You know what? I
um,
like your dog has good taste. Never trust the Germans. I'm just gonna say
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. Never trust the Germans. No, but see, what if you go back in history, um, when it really fell apart was when FedEx wrote a letter to the team that said,
Right.
we're going to take the name off the stadium if you don't change the name. That is
Right.
what really set it over. So that's why I said, I think more than Nike, more than anybody else, it was really Fred Smith. And he did that, in my opinion, that was in the middle of the fight over, with this lawsuit with Dan Snyder, and when
Right.
he did that.
And that's what I was calling the proxy fight. Like
Okay, yeah, it's
I
not a
don't think
proxy vote, though. It's not
I didn't say
proxy.
vote. I said fight.
It's not a
It's like a
proxy
proxy
fight.
war. It's when
No, it isn't.
you fight over here when you're really mad about the money.
Yeah, but you're
You,
using corporate term in here, which it's not. Not
no, I'm
applicable
using
here.
a fist fighting term when it's not.
Fight nice, guys.
We're
Fight nice.
saying the same thing. You're just using a term incorrectly.
Well, I don't speak corporate. I speak American.
That's probably good.
Yeah.
Nobody should speak corporate.
No,
But the
no.
point is, I mean, yeah, rest in peace, obviously, to
Yeah.
him and his family. But I blame him in no small part for the demise of the team name.
I definitely, I mean,
Uh,
look, it definitely was a huge part of it. But I also give him credit because I think if that hadn't happened, Dan Snyder would still be owning the team too. If that whole fight between him and the minority owners hadn't gone the way it went, Dan Snyder
Well,
would still be here in
maybe,
all
but
likelihood.
he got in trouble with personal conduct. That's what really,
Right.
when they went before Congress, it was over.
Steve, why do you think that he got caught with that?
Well, I
Who
mean,
do you think was
the
leaking all that?
cheerleaders reported him. I mean, it's all
yeah.
connected for sure.
Yeah.
But he was going to have to go with or without it, I think, with or
I mean,
without the
I
Fred
get
Smith stuff.
I get Fred Smith played a key role with Nike and all that about the name and everything, but I'm sorry, but Dan Snyder for a better part of at least a good 5 years prior, you could probably even go little further further back, paved the way for all this to happen. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
just the decisions he's made, the enemies that he created, and the strife that in that
Mhm.
building he created, all the animosity, the discomfort, unprofessionalism, and everything. It's yeah. What Fred Smith did is he'll always be and kind of vilified for that or villainized for that rather. But as far as the name being gone, I give 99.9% blame on all Dan Snyder for that because of what he did prior to that, the lead up to that, that all could have been avoided. But he was too much of a tiny tyrant that just
Yeah.
thought he was better than everyone else and it caught up to him.
All
Well,
that is true, and his personal conduct was abhorrent, and
oh
Yes.
yeah.
all of it.
I mean,
Yep.
how
Um,
many? I've said many times he was a bad owner. He was a worse person.
yeah, I don't know how his wife has not divorced him.
Funny.
Yeah, but I mean, there must be a really ugly prenup or something. I don't know. Who knows? Um,
Uh,
I
it's
do
just a
think that
really,
the
really big
name
pile of
in
money.
today's you know climate of overly sensitive people, I think the name was going to go at some point, no matter
Mm.
what. Which is unfortunate because we all know it was a good name, but there are a bunch of intolerant crazies out there that don't put up with it.
Yeah, I've long accepted. Accepted that when I was like 15 years old that eventually they were going to lose it. It was just
But
I
see,
saw the writing on the wall.
the unfortunate part of we had a real forward-thinking owner. I mean,
Right.
even maybe even Josh Harris at that time, if he had Redskins today, I mean, you could have had something where, okay, maybe we can't keep the name, maybe we can't get enough Native American support, but maybe we can do something where we keep going Warriors or something. We keep that Native American theme,
Right.
and we could tie a lot more of the Native American culture and, allowing more foundations to help reservations and,
Mhm.
basically what the Florida State, basically what Florida State does, which is why they can keep Seminoles
Right.
forever going forward because of what they have with
The
the Seminole
Seminole front.
Nation itself
Right.
down there. And
There's
that's
also a huge difference between we named it after a specific tribe versus just a broad term.
sure,
Yeah, that
sure.
helps.
Yeah,
Helps a
but
lot.
Dave's point is the same. I mean, you could have done more to keep keep at
Yeah.
least some vestige of the
Oh yeah,
history of
yeah.
the team in there.
If you'd been proactive instead of reactive, you absolutely
Yes.
could
Yes.
have. And unfortunately, it seems like Harris is now accepted that it's just going to stick with Commanders
Oh,
because they
it's
had
over.
success. Yeah, it's
Oh
over
It's
now.
yeah.
over.
Yeah.
It's
Uh,
it was over after they went 12-5 and Jane
yep.
Daniels had the year that he had.
Yeah.
If they were 5-12 and Jane Daniels was okay, it
Mm-hmm.
might have still been in discussion today.
Yeah.
But
Uh, Now the one thing Harris is saying, and it's not really been a big secret that the uniforms are going to change as soon as possible. They have to wait for that 5 year mark to do it now because there was like a small window when you buy the team that you could change the uniforms again, but that passed pretty quickly. Um, but the team is talking about changing the uniforms in 2026 officially. And there was a rumor initially that came out from Kevin Sheehan. Uh, I'd say it's more of a report than a rumor that he got this from people inside the organization that they're going to bring back throwbacks this year to basically find an old Redskins uniform, but you just replace the logo on the helmet and keep everything else.
That'd at
So
least
they're
be
going to do,
better.
yeah,
It would at least
yeah,
be some link to the past.
right. Now, I
and
don't
I
know
mean,
which
even use that
throwback.
spear on the side or something.
Yeah.
Or go with the R with the feather on it. They had because they had that for a couple of years, didn't they? Was that just
They're
a
not going to touch
mock-up one
Native
thing?
American.
They're not going to do
anything.
the R with the feather
Mm-mm.
thing. Yeah. Even a spear would be a long shot, I think, but not impossible. At least
Mhm.
spear, because let's be honest, spears have been around for 500,000 years.
Yeah, but
No
they're
one
not going to
really
want
owns
to.
it. No, I
They're
know.
not going to touch it.
Probably not. But if they go back to looking like they did in the 80s, fine. I've never been a huge fan of that era uniform, but I could totally get behind that. If they go back to even something from the 60s, more traditional, that's cool too, with me at least.
I
But
mean, I don't think there's anything they can do at this point that would make me feel good about it.
no, but at least they would look like garbage and they would look like the Redskins again. Uh, so that would help. So yeah, I don't think they've announced a official like uniform thing, but we do know they're doing the third helmet, and we do know now that they're probably going to do throwbacks a couple times this year. Because the NFL and Nike are like, it's going the way of the NBA. And Steve, you know this because you were much more of a basketball guy than any of us. The NBA is ridiculous in how many different jerseys teams wear now.
Oh, I don't. I mean, I'm not one to pay attention to it too much, but there's a zillion of them.
Right. Every team has
You-
like 12 uniforms a
Yeah,
season.
uniforms just aren't my thing.
Right.
I don't really care that much, but I just like tradition. But yeah, there's a
Right.
lot of them in the NBA,
Yeah.
and all it's really about is just selling jerseys to fans.
Right. Right. Baseball at least has some limits, but NBA is the worst. So Nike's trying to push the NFL that way, because he says, "Hey, here's money," and the NFL, they just gobble it up. They love
Yeah.
their money. They love the money so much; it's delicious to them. All right, so that was the one little uniform thing. The other Josh Harris story, and now this one's more fun. Fanatics was having a fan fest. I believe was it up in Philly, Dave? Do you know? I think it was somewhere. It was either Philly or New York. I can't remember. The Fanatics thing that happened. Do you know?
I can't remember. No, I don't.
Okay. I didn't know if you knew or not, but they were doing the card trading day of FanFest because trading cards are popular again apparently. Which doesn't it make you feel old that trading cards are back?
No, it always has been popular amongst a certain group. It's never
Yeah,
not been
but
popular.
it's like hot now. It's like trading cards have become more popular than like buying jerseys and stuff like
It's
that.
another thing I never cared about.
Yeah, you never got into trading cards?
No,
I
not
could
at all.
I could have seen Steve as a trading card kid.
No.
No,
I'm
Alright.
very cheap also. Remember that. I'm very, very cheap.
Yeah.
The Jacob Javits Center in New York City. That's where.
Okay,
it
it was in New York City.
Yes.
Okay. So at this trading card part of this convention, Josh Harris goes out on stage with Jaden Daniels, shouts out who has the rarest Jaden Daniels rookie card, and someone says they have a one of one special edition card that was created, and Josh Harris buys it for $500,000 right there at the festival.
That's insane.
It is. They're going to display it in the stadium apparently. And does that make it a business expense that he doesn't have to pay for?
Possibly, yeah.
Right?
I mean,
he can
you would
write it
certainly
off.
argue it. You would
right?
certainly argue it.
When you have that kind of money where you're just like, yeah, I'll buy that for $500,000. And like, I don't know, does he have a briefcase with it? Or I'm assuming it's a check.
Well, no, you could
or a
wire
wire
the money.
transfer.
You would
Yeah.
never write it. Yeah, it would be a wire.
That's crazy.
I want it paid in bags of coins. Like just coins.
I'll only take nickels, please, sir. Roll a U-Haul truck full of nickels.
Right. That would be fun. That just for the fun of it, do that. Or pennies, because pennies are going out of circulation. Then you save all the pennies, and they're worth more money in like 20 years.
Hey, is it the federal government ending the penny or something?
Yep.
Or ending?
Yep. They've been talking about. By the way, I worked at the Treasury 15 years ago, and we were talking about it then. They even asked us like, "What's your guys' thoughts?" And we're like, "We're camera guys. We don't have any opinions about that." But
Well, you might have an opinion. It just is totally irrelevant.
Right.
Right.
Why are you asking? But yeah, they're finally going to end the penny. It sounds like that's neither here nor there though.
Oh, so we could get rid of the look. It's just under $1,000. It's $999.99.
Well, no,
No,
they're
no,
not
no.
taking the penny out of circulation. They're not making new pennies.
Right. They're not going to make new pennies, and
I
they're
thought I heard
still
you say
gonna
they're taking them out of circulation too as
No,
well.
I don't
no,
think so.
That's what I thought.
mean,
Okay.
eventually they're going to be so worn down that they'll be useless and they'll come out of circulation because that's what happens with all currency, right?
Eventually,
But-
there might not be
Right.
physical currency if you fast forward 30 years from now.
Possibly.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about that before. Yeah, we've talked about that off the show many times, actually. I think
We've talked about a lot of things. We probably
yes, we
talked about
have.
it on the show and don't remember. We've done like something like 600 of these shows. So.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But yeah, all right. So
I just
Steve,
think
you're not
that's
spending
idiotic
$500,000.
for the record. That's just
You're not
crazy.
gonna.
No.
You're never gonna spend $500,000 on anything, like a rookie card. If
Absolutely not.
if you had cartoonish money, I assume if you went to a guitar convention, you would do that. Just say who's got the nicest Les Paul
Absolutely
here.
not. Hell no, I would never do that. Absolutely not.
No, even
No.
if you had billions of dollars.
No, that's crazy. No.
Okay.
All I know,
All right.
if I had billions of dollars, I'd be too busy spending my time in peace and quiet on an island somewhere and never leaving it, and having all my food and everything shipped over to me with a personal airport so my family can come visit me, and that's it.
See, that's what I would do. Something like go buy an island. Yes.
I mean, I would have an island, but I don't know if I would, exclusively just be on the island. You got to get out and do things. That's the fun of having millions.
Well,
and millions
yeah,
of
I'm not
dollars.
saying only be on the island. I'm saying that if you want to know what I
Oh,
I
okay.
would never buy a physical object worth some insane amount of money. I would do what Dave was suggesting, which is you buy an island, then you go, other places and do other things.
Right.
But yeah,
Maybe I'll buy a cruise ship too at the same time, so I just tell the family, come on down, get on a cruise ship, we'll go down to Caribbean for a little bit.
I don't want to live on a boat. I'm not doing
No,
that.
no, not live on the boat. I still have the island, and when I'm ready to go somewhere, come on down, let's get on the cruise ship, and
See,
That's kind of
Steve,
what Dan Snyder's doing, actually.
yeah, Dave Snyder
Yeah,
over
pretty
here
much.
is what we got going on.
Y'all are about the same height.
Yeah.
no, I
Yeah.
got him by a foot.
You don't have him by a foot.
Oh, I got him by a foot.
That would make
absolutely.
him 3'10", though. You're 4'10". That
Actually,
would make.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, because he's closer to 3'6". You're right.
Oh, you got more than that. Okay.
I one time saw Dan Snyder with a giant lollipop, and he was talking to a girl wearing a blue plaid dress and ruby slippers. It was very interesting.
Are you giving us a Wizard of Oz?
That was yes. That was not even a subtle Wizard of Oz.
No,
reference,
it wasn't.
but That's fine. It's a movie from the 30s. I don't think you can be subtle. Yeah. All right. So that was the fun thing Josh Harris decided to spend. I'm assuming it's team money. I'm gonna say it's team money because there's no way he did that without writing it off or making an expense.
I don't know. I don't really care either way. It's crazy.
It is crazy. But you know what? He's having fun. He's getting out there. He's running around. A lot of freedom when you're that rich.
How can there be a rare Jaden Daniels card when he's been in the NFL a year? That's the other thing.
So with the card things, I don't remember. It's called it's not like a titanium
I
card.
mean,
or
aren't they
something,
all rookie cards? For him.
But it's a one of one in the they printed this card one time. It's printed on special metal or something. I don't know exactly how they do it, but they make these weird extra rare trading cards now. They do these ones also where it's they take their jersey from one of the games and they cut it up and they put a little piece of the jersey in the
Yeah.
card. All sorts of weird nonsense with trading cards now. I don't know. When I was a kid, I did baseball cards, but that was about it. I didn't do football cards.
I
Football
just could
cards were
never
never
get
a
into
thing.
cards. Yeah, I just didn't. It wasn't my thing.
Yeah. Also, I did X-Men cards because those were just popular in the 90s.
That's about the nerdiest thing I've ever heard.
Oh yeah, it was definitely nerdy. But I looked it up. One of the ones I had was worth $30 now.
I'll tell
$30
you what,
dollars,
I
so
would,
you could buy McDonald's cheeseburger for that.
I'd much rather see a circulation of Marvel cards than I would these Pokemon cards and all that other
Well,
stuff
that's
they have.
fair. That's fair. Yeah. Or Magic the Gathering cards. I had a coworker
Yeah.
who was way too into Magic the Gathering.
But I mean, you got to understand, like, I was reading like classic literature at this time. So,
Right.
yeah, not playing. I mean, it's just not my world.
To
Put
be
that way.
fair, I was doing multiple things. I was reading classic literature and collecting baseball cards.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I had a Billy Ripken card. You know who had a Billy Ripken card? Nobody except for Billy Ripken and me.
That's all right. I collected baseball cards and played classic video games.
Yeah, those were also fun. All right.
Uh,
Third topic. Fun
Kobe
topic.
was agreeing with y'all. I had to mute him.
Yeah, I heard it. I guess this is topic 4. We're steamrolling a little fast through these topics, but they're not very deep. These are shallow topics.
Well, we could babble on. I've always said we could do a podcast about anything. We could talk for 30 minutes about trading cards if you all want us to, but let's
no,
not.
because I think we've run out of ammo on that one. Honestly.
No, we can. I will get through. We could power through it.
All right. So this is one for up Steve's alley. Stadium news. The
Now
city.
we're talking.
Yeah. Steve just lit up like a Christmas tree.
Oh no, that's just the light reflecting off his head. That's all.
Both of those things are true simultaneously.
Yes. The DC City Council, the chairman of the council put out a statement today, stating that they are pushing to. They're not going to get the stadium agreement done by the 15th. They've known this for a while, so they're going to split that out of the budget because they have to get the budget passed by the 15th. And the statement says they're going to make that into a separate bill so that they can then discuss it and do public hearings and all this legal stuff that they have to do about a stadium, and put it on its own timeline for approval and voting and negotiations. It looks like they're pushing. I saw in multiple reports, probably by September they would have a vote and hopefully have come to an agreement with the team about the particulars of the deal. Some people are panicking. I've seen this online. The one thing to keep in mind is they're keeping the funding earmarked in the bill, so it's not like they're ready to commit financially. They just want to make sure they're getting like the best tax revenue, the best deal. Everyone's getting their, all the councilmen have their little pet projects they want to make sure get to be part of this. Which, that's politics. That's the nature of politics. I see a lot of hand-wringing, a lot of panic from people online. This is actually a very normal part of any political process.
The people who are panicking don't know what the hell they're talking about. Okay.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Look, speaking as the only one, anybody who's listening to this who's actually done stadium deals and worked on NFL stadiums, I can tell you that it is enormously complicated. It is really, really complicated. And it's well beyond the capacity of the city council to do something like that in the normal city budget. That's not a thing. Okay.
Right.
So this is a lot of lawyers and a lot of documents and a lot of serious, complicated negotiations involving multiple funding sources and a whole bunch of different parties. And it is not something you just throw in a line item in a budget. The fact that they removed it is the only thing that could have happened that was realistic. And it's a good thing because that means that they're taking it seriously.
They are.
So
absolutely
the people are
taking
panicking, don't know. If you think that, just don't listen. You don't know what you're talking about. The people are telling you that don't know what they're talking about.
No one's. I'm just
Not
seeing
you.
it. Yeah. Look, I'll be honest. It's a lot of sports writers and sports
writers
guys
are
that
pretty
we follow.
dumb themselves. Okay.
Right. Here's my thing. A lot of you guys out there who grew up in DC, maybe maybe as someone who grew up here myself, I have higher expectations than I should. You guys should know a lot more about how politics work if you grew up in the DC area than you apparently do.
Dave, Alex, the fact that we started this show
Right.
and made it into something with no experience whatsoever ought to tell everybody what it's like to be a sports reporter. Okay.
That is fair. Some of them
And
are.
I live in a
knowledgeable.
region with guys like Howard Askin up here. So trust me.
Perfect. Yes, that's
Yes.
a perfect example. Exactly.
Yes.
like I know Rick is very knowledgeable about the stadium stuff. He's not knowledgeable about local politics as much, but he's decently knowledgeable.
He's been
Maybe it's a
around, and we like Rick,
yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah,
Maybe it's generational. It's a lot of the guys in there who are probably closer to my age, 30s, 40s, and they just apparently have no knowledge of how about how politics works at all. They're like, but the mayor made a deal. The mayor doesn't matter.
well, they don't know
Come
about
on.
politics.
Yeah,
They don't know about business. They don't know about
right,
anything. Rick
right.
has been around so long that he's just
Yeah,
seen a lot of things.
yes.
Right.
Old timers, that happens, right? You hit your
Yeah.
60s, you've been
Some of
punched in the
them,
face
you
by
have some
everything.
morons out there who somehow survived, in the industry.
Right.
Rick is not one of them.
Right. Oh, in the industry, I thought you must in general like they just avoided bears.
No, I mean, like the reporters out there, it's a handful of like crotchety old
Right.
reporters who are awful. They've always been awful. They're still awful. Rick is
Oh,
not one of
sure.
them. Rick is pretty
Sure.
smart and,
Yeah.
knows a lot about it.
Yeah, even who's that guy who's on Sheehan show?
Tom
That we all
Lavaro.
hate. Yeah, yeah. We all hate
Yeah,
him.
he was
He
who
he
I was
blocks
thinking
us all
of.
the time.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, yeah,
exactly who I
yeah.
was thinking of.
But even he is smart enough to be aware of this stuff, but like he's just an old crotchety troll.
I just
Like
hate
that's a
to
different
burst
thing.
anybody's bubble. It's not, this is like the lowest form of reporting. What is hard
Yeah.
is for people to get sources and cultivate people who give you information.
Right.
That is hard. It is
Right.
writing and about sports is easy.
Yeah.
It
Oh
really,
yeah.
it's the lowest form of journalism, basically.
Right. It's kind of where well, maybe weather. Weather's pretty easy too. I
Weather
mean,
is, well, it's no, weather is not easy because you have to predict, you have to actually come up with the predictions.
well,
That's
weather
hard.
is hard to you got to like get the science background, but it's easy in that you don't have to actually do much work other than find the weather information and look at a
Well, yeah, I
radar.
mean, there's a reason they used to have a bunch of like weather charts, decades
Right.
ago.
Right.
Like David Letterman did the weather before he
Right.
became a star,
That is
and he's
true.
not a weatherman at all. But if you can get the information somewhere, they can get any
Anyone
gorilla
can read
out
it.
there to,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Well, not anyone could read it. Oh,
Maybe
you
a
need to be able
gorilla
to.
couldn't, but somebody like that,
Yeah.
something close.
Yes. At least 50% of the country is literate enough to read a teleprompter, I think.
Put
So
it this way. In Married with Children, Kelly Bundy was a weather girl for like one or two episodes.
I remember that. That was a fun one. Yep. Nice pull on the Married with Children reference.
There you go.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So again, don't panic about the stadium stuff.
It's a good
What
thing,
they're
not a bad
doing,
thing.
yeah. I think everyone is playing this. I don't even like to call it a chess game, but let's call it for the purpose of they're all playing the chess game, knowing how it's going to come out, but they're
Right.
playing it right. The team is
They don't
doing the
know the
right thing,
details or the finances.
right?
That's what we have to get to.
But the team is playing things the right way. The mayor's playing bad cop a little, which I think is, just a role. I don't think she's really that upset about any of this. She knows that this was going to happen. Um, I think they just maybe were a little annoyed that their timeline got shortened unexpectedly. The team and the mayor, but it wasn't anything they could control, and it's not council's fault either. So I don't think
Council
there's
had to
any.
do this.
Yeah, they absolutely had to do it this way. Like you said, you can't sneak a line item in a budget this size. There's plenty of pork in every budget. We know that. Like in every city, state, federal, like small town American budgets have pork in them. It's just the nature of government.
Well, also,
But
I also like developing stadiums takes a lot of documents. Okay,
right,
I mean they'll have to be written and negotiated, and
right.
it's just not a budget item.
You're talking about massive amounts of a labor force that have to be figured
Yeah,
out and all this stuff. Yeah, yeah. It's going to be the largest undertaking in the city, like in the history of the city. At the end of it, they're
which is
saying.
saying a lot because it's Washington D.C.
Right, right. It's not a small town. It's
Well, I mean
uh,
it's the U.S. Capitol. Look at all
right.
that development.
Well, to be fair, Steve, they did a lot of that with slavery. Like
I'm not
they had.
saying they did it the right way. I'm saying it's a lot of effort went into it.
That's
Okay.
true. That's true. Okay, so maybe short of the initial design of the city and planning of the city, this is like the second biggest thing logistically.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But I still think it's gonna happen. I would put it at like 99% at this point that this is gonna happen.
Oh, it'll
Uh,
happen. It's gonna
yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
And I'm just rooting for the 1% that it falls through and it stays where it's at. And he's built a new stadium right there. It's a lot easier for me to get to.
Dave
Yeah.
just knows he's not going to ultimately pay a PSL. That's
Yeah.
Oh,
where
hell
all
no,
this is
no.
leading.
Yeah,
Now,
no.
now the one crazy rumor that came out with all this discussion today, somebody was reporting that the team's now reconsidering putting a roof and going back to a retractable roof, which I think is, look, I hate roofed stadiums.
That's
With
the
passion,
only
but
thing they can do realistically. There has to be a
I
roof.
know. I'm a realist. I just hate it. It's kind of like eating vegetables. I hate them, but I know I got to eat them. Like it's just
Unless you
it's
want to,
life,
you're okay with scurvy.
right? Well, I know someone who got scurvy. That's a fun fact.
I didn't know anybody who wasn't born in like 1810 ever got scurvy.
It was a girl I worked with when I was in my early 20s. She got scurvy from a diet she was doing that somehow had zero vitamin C for like a straight month.
Wow. But
Yeah.
point is, so the roof thing, look, the NFL, the sort of the unspoken promise, and this is kind of negotiated. The
Mhm.
teams that build new stadiums get a Super Bowl. They might not
Right.
ever get it again, but they get a Super Bowl. But if you're going to have one in a cold weather climate, the NFL will not do it unless you have a roof. It's
Right.
as simple as that. I mean, they made an exception for the Meadowlands because it's New York City,
Mhm.
but
And
that
that
is
was
the only
they
exception.
made it very clear that was going to be a one-time thing
Yeah,
too.
they did. They expressly said it. And
Yeah.
so Washington D.C., of course, very cold in January, late
Hmm.
January, early February. So it's just never going to happen unless they do a roof. And so that's why I said they have. It can be retractable, but they have to be able to close it up.
I just don't. The cost of a retractable roof, Steve, you
It's
know
a
this.
lot.
Versus a regular one, it's probably double.
I don't know. I don't have the
Yeah.
numbers.
No, but I'm just saying
It's
based
not
off of
cheap.
what I've seen, it's definitely not cheap. Um, you know, and since Harris is paying for it all himself, that
Well,
factors
he's
into it
not
too.
paying for it
Well,
himself.
you know what I mean. The ownership
The
group will be paying
ownership
for it.
group is
Yeah,
paying for it. Yeah.
right.
But well, again, I mean, you finance all this stuff. This is not. You're not going to pull,
Sure.
$2 billion out of somebody's savings account, and all this is construction financing
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
bonds and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Unless they can
It's
get
Yeah.
a,
their hands on Roddenberry's technology for a force field, keep no roof at all, and then bam, right there. Just flick a
Well,
I
switch.
suppose that's possible.
I mean, technically, we're just talking about keeping out rain, so it's not a force field. You would actually just want a heat shield that's hot enough to evaporate the rain in real
Well,
time.
it's not just rain; it's also temperature control too.
But the heat shield would take care of that too.
Would it though? I don't know.
I would think so, because it's radiating heat. I think I just solved the problem. There we go. Heat
There we
shield.
Heat to
go.
perfect. Yeah, the best of both worlds.
We'll build a nuclear reactor under the stadium that'll just generate massive amounts of energy straight up around the top of the stadium. And nothing could possibly go wrong with that, right?
No, and we
Captain
can
Kirk
always.
says hello.
uh,
uh,
yeah. Worst case scenario, we end up with the Mutant Football League for like that video game from the 90s.
Do you realize that William Shatner is still going on? He's like in his 90s now,
He's
and he's like,
93. Yes, I
and he's
know.
still performing some kind of stage act. I saw an ad for one.
He's still active. I know he showed up to the Star Trek convention in Ticonderoga, New York, not long ago. I think that was a year ago.
He also
Uh,
looks like he's like in his 70s,
yeah, he
yeah.
looks for
and
how old
maybe
he is.
because
Yeah.
it's a lot of surgery, but
Well, you know what it is also when you get really fat in your like late 60s, like he did, like that kind of helps you age well because you got extra stuff that to wither away.
something
It,
like
it's
that.
it's a super secret thing. It's science. I don't know what science, but it is science.
See,
Um,
everybody, if everybody's wondering, the dog is officially tired and is
oh,
officially
good.
asking to go to bed now.
Oh,
Very
good.
nice.
Good boy, Kobe. And
And it's
polite
also
to
too
ask.
dark to see, anymore.
Hmm.
So I don't know if he can see the dogs running around in the yard anymore.
Yeah. All right. So let's change gears. Steve, you wrote a fun article looking at running backs through the team's history here. Uh, you were trying to kind of figure out who the most accomplished running back is. Now, I don't think there's any surprise who the answer is going to be. Let's be honest. But you did break down a bunch of different, statistical things for about our running backs throughout the team's history. Um, I'll let you take it away. I'll tell you the one thing that really kind of stands out to me for a team that's been around as long as Washington, we really haven't had that many great running backs.
Well, I made that point in the piece.
Yeah.
Washington hasn't had a bunch of good running backs. No. Obviously, John Riggins came out ahead. Okay. And
Right.
I'll see. As soon as I said the dog is tired, now we're marking here. So let's
Well,
give him
here
a
in
second.
John Riggins, he gets excited by the diesel,
I have the feeling the German Shepherd just came home.
Ah.
Okay. So anyway, I use the term accomplished because I hate the term best. Who's the best running back?
Sure.
I don't know what that means. And, it could be favorite, it could be what. And so what I did here is I took a couple different categories for rushing.
Statistical categories,
yeah. And so by what I mean by accomplished is who did the most for the team.
Right.
That's what I mean by it. So I took total rushing yardage, total number of carries, yards per carry, touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, and then I added receptions to this and receiving touchdowns to it. And I played around with formulas for this. And I did come up with one formula where Riggins was not in the lead. If I emphasized receiving enough, I could bump him out, but I didn't think that was right. So I'm not going to read all. First of all, this is all on the website. Y'all can read all this. And I'm going to skip to the end and give everybody the end, and we'll go through kind of some of the data here. So when I take all those categories into account and I weighted receiving less and I rated yards per carry more, and I came up with a formula and I weighted yards per carry more, receiving less. Here it is in order. John Riggins, Clinton Portis, Alfred Morris, Stephen Davis, Larry Brown, Brian Mitchell, Charlie Justice, Terry Allen, Chris Thompson, Kelvin Bryant. That is the order. That was the order without the receiving. If you add receiving in, the order is almost exactly the same, just the points change a little bit. With the receiving in it, it's Riggins, Portis, Brown, Morris, Davis, Brian Mitchell, Chris Thompson, Charlie Justice, Terry Allen, Kelvin Bryant. Now, the interesting thing is that John Riggins' yards per carry was actually not good. He was below 4 on a career basis. So he's not even on the list anywhere. But he had he spent so long with the team. He has so many carries. He's leading the team in yardage, rushing yardage. He's at 7,472. Clinton Portis at 68, more than 6,800. Larry Brown 5,800. Stephen Davis 5,790, and then everybody else is lagging behind. Total number of carries, it's Riggins, everybody else. Riggins has 1,988. Clinton Portis more than 1,600, and then again everybody else is below. Yards per carry. Anybody care to guess who was ahead in yards per carry? This is career with the team over 250 carries.
Over 250.
Yeah, because I'm not talking about somebody rolled in for one carry.
I'm assuming it's probably Riggins again, but just for fun, I'm gonna go with Alfred Morris because he had a crazy yards per carry.
Well, Riggins' yards per carry was like 3.8.
Oh, right, because he was kind of a fullback
for
part of his career.
Dave, would you care to take a stab at this? Who'd you guess? You guessed Alfred Morris?
I said Alfred Morris.
Okay.
I think he zone run,
Considering the fact that I have your article open.
Oh, okay.
I already know what the answer is.
Okay, don't guess then.
Yeah. But if I had to have guessed, to be honest with you, I probably would have gone with someone like either Chris Thompson that you had on that list, came in on number 3. But I didn't realize that he had a total of I'm thinking 250 carries in 1 year.
No, this is total with the team.
So it's just total with the team was.
Yes.
That's at first I'm thinking 251 year.
No,
I'm like, Chris Thompson wouldn't have been at it, but total, because Chris Thompson had a lot of big home run type runs.
Yes, he did
Throughout his entire career, and that's what made him so enjoyable to watch. But I would have never guessed the number one on that list.
I probably
To be
would have
honest with
guessed
you.
if I didn't know this. I probably would have guessed Kelvin Bryant. That's who I probably would have guessed. Who is
Yeah.
fourth on the list? But Brian Mitchell leads the team, 5 yards per carry. Now he didn't have a ton of carries, only 352 in 10 seasons.
Right.
But the ones he had, and he wasn't an every down back. He never was that. He came
No.
in on all kinds of different plays. But Brian Mitchell 5. So the top of the food chart here is Brian Mitchell, then Charlie Justice in the 50s, 4.8 yards per carry. Chris Thompson, 4.8 yards per carry. Kelvin Bryant, 4.6. Joe Washington, 4.5. And then Alfred Morris is at 4.4, tied with Roy Halou and Rob Good, who was in the 50s. And I'd never even heard of him, to be honest.
Yeah. So, we were talking
Yeah.
before when we were kind of saying we should discuss this. People forget about guys like Charlie Justice and a lot of those 50s running backs a lot. I don't know why. Like, our fan base is pretty good about loving their history and some of their great players. The 50s is always a blank spot.
That's just so old that, I mean, there's
Yeah.
nobody alive who really, is following the team that remembers that.
Except for maybe no one from Tampa, but yeah.
Even he's been around in the 50s.
Yeah. Maybe not.
Not watching football, at least.
He was in diapers.
But see, what's actually crazy on this list is I see Clinton Portis at 4.1 yards per carry average, and Brian Robinson Jr. tied with him 4.1 yards per carry.
That tells you everything you need to know. Brian Robinson's on a couple of these lists.
Yeah. One thing you didn't really look at that from what I can tell, that I think is worth noting. Look, I think it's fair to say that John Riggins is the iconic running back for this team. They're
Right.
retiring his number. Did they retire it yet, or that's the next one up? I can't remember.
I'm not aware that they have retired it.
I think that's one of the ones on the list that they're still planning on doing. The one thing I will say, the guys who were here for the most games, though, like Brian Mitchell played more games here than Riggins in the end.
It was
I
10
think
seasons. Riggins wasn't here for
right, because he left for the Jets for a couple of years, right?
Right.
Yeah. So Mitchell, I think, still has the record for the most games played at running back with 159.
I didn't pull that for this. I just pulled carries.
I Googled it quickly, and he's the top guy. But shockingly, you want to know who number 2 is? Rock Cartwright, one of my favorite guys of all time. Career backup, but he was here for 123 games.
I mean, the macro, and by the way, let me run through the rest of these. So rushing touchdowns, Riggins way ahead of everybody. 79 rushing touchdowns. Clinton Portis next, 46. Stephen Davis, 45. And then there's everybody else. Receptions, I won't make y'all guess. Larry Brown, everybody should have guessed that, to be honest. And then Brian Mitchell was next. And then Chris Thompson, then everybody else. And then receiving touchdowns, again, Larry Brown, Charlie Taylor, tied at 20. And then Kelvin Bryant is below with 14. And
it's almost not fair to compare Larry Brown and Charlie Taylor to traditional running backs.
Yeah, not really.
How different that game was.
But that's technically were listed as running backs. And no, I think my macro level point here was considering how old you said it. One of you, Dave, was it you that said it? One of you two said it. Considering how old the franchise is, they don't have a lot of great running backs on this team. And they haven't produced a ton of great statistics. I wasn't that surprised because I mean, we all know the history of the team, but I listed some NFL leaders throughout this thing. And I hate to admit this, Emmitt Smith has accomplished more than any other running back in history.
Oh, sure.
He did, by far. He's torched everybody on this list, except yards per carry. That's the only thing.
I think it's fair to say with the way the league is now, no one's ever going to break Emmitt Smith's all-time rushing record at this point.
Realistically, no.
Yeah, I don't think anyone.
Well, they don't really
get
enough carries for it per season anymore.
No one gets enough carries. No one lasts that long. He played till his late 30s.
So Dave has the article up, and you might have seen it. So Alex, I'll have you guess. Do you know who is the NFL's all-time leader in yards per carry for backs with 250 or more carries?
Yards per carry? Oh, I'd have to shot in the dark. Maybe Adrian Peterson. I feel like some of these later guys in the NFL.
You're talking about overall in the NFL, right?
Overall throughout the NFL.
Oh, because I didn't see that part on your list, and And I believe that's Chris Johnson in Tennessee, wasn't it? Because he was just above Barry Sanders on that.
It's probably some random dude.
I think it was Chris
like
Johnson,
a good
Barry
player,
Sanders,
but
and then Jim Brown.
Sorry,
is
the
it?
dog's still going crazy here.
Yeah. Well, whenever Steve is back, I'm just going to peruse his article. Let's see if I can figure it out. Just scanning his article here real quick. The answer I believe is Jamal Charles. Is that it? Did I get it right?
Yes, Jamal Charles is the answer.
Yep.
So the backs with 400 and 250 more carries who were above 5 yards per carry in the NFL, Jamal Charles, Jim Brown, Nick Chubb, Barry Sanders. That's the only ones above 5 in the entire history of the NFL.
I thought Chris Johnson was on that list for some reason.
Nope.
Wow.
No.
Okay.
I mean, look. Also, Jamal Charles, good running back, by no means like super memorable in my mind. You know,
I don't think he's super. And by the way, so Chris Johnson was only at 4.5 yards per attempt career,
which is still really good.
You know, I
He's
think
not- yeah, it's still.
I
Good.
think he has a single season record for yards per carry average. I think he has. That's what he might have. That's what I might be thinking of, or close to it anyway.
His career high was 5.6 in 2009.
And that's when he broke 2,000 yards, right?
Yes.
Yes. So that's what I'm probably thinking about.
Okay, you're thinking about the 1 year, but yeah. So yeah, I wouldn't think I don't think anybody thinks Jamal Charles is the greatest running back in NFL history, or the most accomplished.
He had a couple of really good seasons. I'll give him that. Yeah.
So I hope y'all. I've been doing some history articles recently, just because there's so little team news and on this. And so yeah, I did special teams. Who are the best special teamer? We got running backs. I think I'm going to do receivers next week. So stay tuned.
Yeah. Special teamer should not be a hard one to figure out who the most famous and well-known best special teams player on Washington's history would be.
Desmond Howard, easy.
It's Brian Mitchell.
Right.
No, he's second to Desmond Howard. What are you talking
about? Antoine Randall L. Actually, no disrespect to him. Hey, he was decent, but it's just fun to say Antoine Randall L.
So I did. If y'all want to look it up, I did something called "Who are Washington's Best Kick and Punt Returners Ever." That was June 20th. Right. So you can look that up. But so technically speaking, the best kick returner in Washington history was Herb Mulkey in the early 70s. And of the modern, there is almost no modern players on this list, which is a little odd. But Rock Cartwright leads the modern contingent with 24 yards per carry. Him and Brandon Banks both. Cartwright, Brandon Banks. And then of the punt returners, it was Andy Farkas in the 40s, Darrell Green at 12 yards per carry, and then Brian Mitchell with 11. And of course, Darrell Green only had 51 returns. He was kind of the special occasion guy. But Brian Mitchell is the most accomplished in team history by far. 317 punt return. Brian Mitchell had, I believe he might have led. He's one of the top in the NFL ever in terms of returners.
I think up until the guy from the Bears who just got in the Hall of Fame,
Devin Hester.
Hester. Thank you. Up until Hester, Mitchell still had most of the records.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And in terms of NFL on that, Desmond Howard is the highest modern era player, on it. Desmond Howard of Washington, fame. So
right
there you go.
Right. Fame.
Well, he was with Green Bay, I think, more than one, but Washington drafted him.
Right. All right. We have a few minutes left. Let's do our position group breakdown for the week, because why not close out with that? All right. This week's position group breakdown, we are going to break down the safety group. Washington has made some serious changes to the safety position. This was the one mistake, I think, from their offseason. They let Jeremy Chin walk. He signed a 2-year deal with the Raiders for not a lot of money, but decent money.
I was a bit surprised at the contract he signed.
Yeah, I thought if he was going to sign something like that, I would have kept him, honestly. But that's just me. I'm not the GM. So Washington brings in Will Harris from the Saints for a slightly cheaper deal, 2 years, $6 million. he will now be the starting, I guess, free safety or well,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, he'll be
you
the
know,
free safety.
yeah, for Washington. Um, they
I
released
mean,
Derek Force. Oh,
if
yeah,
you
go ahead.
kind of look at what they've done, bringing in Jones from the Patriots, bringing in
Mhm.
you know Kinlaw on the interior of the line, they brought in a lot of guys that are physical players. Chin was
Right.
never a real physical player. Harris is a physical player. Now he will give up a home run ball here and there, but the one thing he does do better than Chin is that he has a chance of creating more turnovers, especially as he comes up into the box and so forth because of the kind of impact player he is. I think they're rolling the dice becoming more physical up front, especially against the run. I mean, will it burn him for it in the passing game? We'll find out.
Yeah, I mean, he's played a lot of free and strong safety, Harris. I think of him more as a free safety because he's a little smaller than Chin was.
I don't think they
You
have
know,
anybody else who's going to be a good free safety. More
Well, it's going to be
importantly,
Quan Martin, free safety again. That's what he was all year last year.
they could do that.
is he better than Will Harris though?
I think he's better than for free safety wise, for
Maybe.
range and cover sideline to sideline. I mean, I think he's got the better instincts and recoverability if
Uh,
he gets a receiver
so
passing him what
I
Harris
think
does.
they are more interchangeable. When last year when Chin was there, Chin is that big safety. He's that like big, you kind of play him as like a linebacker at times type strong safety. I feel like with Harris and Martin back there, you can do some more traditional cover two. Like they're both going to be more coverage guys in the end, free or strong. I
Well,
don't think
that's
it.
true. I mean, if they
Yeah,
play a lot
Yeah,
of cover two, there is no free safety. That's
right.
yeah,
true.
Just looking at
that's a
their
good
body
point.
types and things, I think that might be what they're doing. We know Dan Quinn does love to play a lot more coverage, a lot of cover two, cover three, cover four now. Cover four has become the more popular in vogue thing for a lot of teams. So that could
Well,
be
the thing
why
about
they made this decision.
the free and strong safety is for a team like Washington that had a really, really poor run defense,
Right.
you have another player in the box and that helps.
Sure.
That's the advantage of it. Whereas cover two, this both safeties are back and so I will see what they do. But I think you make a good point earlier, Dave, in that a guy like Javon Kinlaw, he's not a really pass rusher. He's not
No.
really
No,
known for that. He's a run stuffer, and so they made an effort to get run stuffers, and so that would lead me to believe that at least on a fairly regular basis, they may go free and strong safety. And maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Maybe it will be Quan Martin over Will Harris. I mean, maybe so. Um, but I can see them switching their coverage, but I just think it may be better for a team with poor run defense to play more cover three or
Maybe.
free and strong. Yeah,
Yeah.
not cover three.
Yes. Uh, Basically high low, not
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
both dropping back. Yeah. Um, and maybe there's some hope that by them both being more similar players, you can switch that up a little more. I mean, because that is one of the things we know Dan Quinn loves is the ability to kind of move guys around, make yourself less predictable. When you have one guy who's a dedicated in the box safety, you can't do that as much. So that does play into it. It'll be worth watching. That's a little thing that we as fans should try and pay attention to, I think. So we mentioned Quan, we mentioned Will Harris. Those will be your starters. They're bringing back Percy Butler, who was drafted in the fourth round a couple years ago. They're bringing back Jeremy Revis, who has been a All-Pro special teamers for the team. Did he just signed an extension, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
That
he signed an extension. He was a Pro Bowler and an All Pro in 2022,
right.
and yeah,
He's been one of those, not a star, but he's a glue guy for this team. Just like
well, he's
good
got the
hard
greatest
worker.
all-time Pro Bowl notification video
Right. The
ever.
one
Yeah,
thing
right.
Ron Rivera ever did right was that video.
It was.
Yeah, it was a fantastic video. You could, if I'm not going to do it, but go dig it out, watch it, guys. It's if you're feeling down, that's always a good pick me up.
It
They're
really
bringing
was
back.
great.
It was. So they're bringing back Dominique Hampton, the fifth round pick from last year. Obviously, Tyler Owens, who they signed last year, and Ben Nickel, who they signed last year, who doesn't play nickel and should with his name,
It's a bit ironic, isn't it?
right? Like, hey, Ben Nickel, go play nickel. Like, it's perfect.
We want you to play nickel.
Right. Right. They didn't draft anybody at safety this year. A little surprising, but we only had 5 draft picks.
Can't draft everybody.
No, that's true. They did sign one undrafted free agent, Rob McDaniel, who is a Jackson State graduate, 6'2", 207, according to our buddy Noah.
Nobody knows Rob McDaniel but Mr. and Mrs. McDaniel.
Well, maybe
And
some
no one from
people
Tampa.
at Jackson State.
Yeah, and no one from Tampa.
Question: is Jackson State even in Florida? I don't even know where Jackson State is off the top of my head.
I don't know. It's an HBC. It's an HBU.
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure where it's located.
It's in Jackson, right? That's got to be where it is.
Not necessarily, but.
Well, okay, I googled it. It is Jackson, Mississippi. Generally in the South. That's all I knew.
Well, all of the HBCUs are in the South. Most of them.
Not all. Most, but not all. There are several in the North. But you could probably count those. Not like the Southern ones where there's way more than you ever remember. All right, but anyway, back to the safeties. I think this group, we kind of know who's going to be in looking at them. Just looking at the names. Like, I think we know who the starters are. It's fairly a safe bet that both Percy Butler and Jeremy Reeves will be here. I think it's really just a question of, does Hampton or Owens get in as a starter, or are they going to be practice squad guys?
I think that's a total crapshoot.
It really is. But that's the top 4 guys are kind of set, right? They're in pencil as making this roster unless something happens.
Quan Martin, Percy Butler, Jeremy Reeves. Yeah.
And Will Harris.
Harris. Right.
Yeah. No question about those guys.
Well, I know John Keim, about like last month or whatever, going into voluntaries, he was talking about the fact that how much the team really likes Tyler Owens, and so he's an intriguing name to watch going forward, because I know I've never personally been enamored by Percy Butler, and that could be a surprise move where you see Percy Butler not even making the roster.
I don't think anybody's been enamored by Percy Butler. He's underperformed since the day he got here.
Yep. And Tyler Owens could potentially be that guy to bump him off this roster.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So
good call. Watch for that one.
It's an intriguing name to watch.
If it happens, Dave will get credit for it.
I mean, Butler
I'll
is
give it to
part
John
of...
Keim where it belongs.
Yeah. Butler is a Rivera draft pick, and we all know how everyone feels about Rivera draft picks in the new front office. Yeah. They're not fans. So
I still love Adam Peters' initial reaction when he was asked about the roster on his first interview. You know, how he just kind of just like had that look. He was like, I really don't want to answer this question honestly.
Yeah. I heard at least one humana.
Yeah.
You know?
Humana.
All right. Well, that's the safeties group, and that is the show, guys. We did it. We didn't have to vamp for 30 minutes in this one like we did last week.
We talked about weather a little bit, but that's okay.
Yeah, I didn't even get to mention. Well, I said I went to my barber. I sent you guys those. He loves his AI photos. I sent you the one of Steve driving a pickup truck, which is a lot of fun.
What? You didn't send me that.
Did I not send you guys that one? Remember how Steve was saying like he hates the Yeehaw Texas folk?
Yeah,
it's a picture of Steve as a Yeehaw Texas guy. If I didn't send it to you, I'll send it.
You didn't send that one. Yeah.
All right.
No,
let
the
me
last
dig that
one. Last one that I saw in terms of from him was the Hogstyle logo one, which I thought was really, really cool.
It's really good.
It is actually cool.
Yes.
The ultra realistic Hogstyle logo.
And seeing that logo right there is just something to where we should get our names back out there now and really push this podcast forward, because that's a badass logo to do that with.
I actually am half tempted to like throw that logo on our website and use it from time to time. I'm gonna get his okay on that if we do. No,
we'll talk about that offline.
Yeah. Mauricio, you might get some credit. So anyway, We'll talk about that offline. I just sent you guys the photo of Steve.
Yeah, Mauricio, this is not me. Okay.
Close enough. Close
No,
enough.
it's not.
Got the
But
long face.
The cowboy hat. You love your cowboy hat.
Yeah, cowboy hats and pickup trucks. No thanks.
No. All right, guys. We will talk to you all next week. Enjoy your week. Later.
Later.